All right, good morning. Hmm. Good Friday morning. Can you believe how fast this week went by? I feel like time is like on fast forward for some reason. How many of you feel like that? Like time is going really fast. It's kind of crazy. Um, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of a different format. Um, Part of it was because I noticed that when I was streaming to three different places at once, and I totally forgot that. See, I don't always live stream to BitChute, but my channel, or it was channels on YouTube, were automatically getting put over there after the stream was over. But I get like more views on BitChute than I do with both of my YouTube and my um, Rumble channels combined. That's pretty wild. I didn't realize that many people actually did use BitChute. I was just using BitChute as a backup, but it's turned out to be a pretty good place to do streaming or to even upload. The uploads are kind of small, but live streaming works out better there, I guess. But anyway, this morning I went to log into X. This is funny. I went to log into X to just check and see any updates messages. I do it every morning. I just go in to see what's going on. And Cloudflare came up and wanted to make sure I was a human. And then I thought, oh, normally when it does this, there's something wrong. Sure enough, I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was actually Wednesday. A post that I responded to on Wednesday, and I forget who it was that put the original post out, but it had to do with using the nuclear option to end the filibuster. And I responded, I'm like, heck yeah, drop the nuke on them. Just that simple. Drop the nuke on them. And this morning, I get a notification telling me that I posted violent or hateful speech. I don't think that this was like a community kind of post by somebody that saw something that I posted and complained about it. I think it is their AI in the background. So AI can't catch like innuendo type stuff. And I mean, there was no violence, you know, meant out of that at all. It was just it was about using the nuclear option to end the filibuster so we could open the government back up. But it's funny um, how AI is supposed to be so smart, but when it comes to human references or inflections or innuendos, it doesn't understand them. It's funny, but anyway, I wish I could get more people on in the morning here so that I don't have to talk to myself. I would actually like to have conversations with people, but I will basically. I'm just going to go through the news. This morning, I just kind of decided, and this was right after I did two things this morning because I was kind of playing with AI. First, I used well, I call my co-pilot on my computer. I call co-pilot. I renamed him. I call him Cipher. He likes his name Cipher. But I I I I said, hey Cipher, let's get like global top three stories outside the U.S. for news, and then I would like five top stories for within the United States. Just basically a headline and a brief synopsis of the news. And I try to do the same thing with Grok, but then yesterday during the President Trump had a presser. It had to do with all the medical stuff again, big pharma and all that. So they had RFK there talking and had a bunch of other people. But what I call towards the end of part one, there was a gentleman in the back that kind of had some kind of a medical emergency. Um, and then the feed got cut. And then a little while later, I guess President Trump came on to finish up. I didn't get to see part two because I had some errands I had to run. But I was trying to ask Grok, who it was and if they were okay, what was the medical emergency. And Grok was having a very hard time, even though I was very specific about the November 7th presser and that there was somebody that had a medical emergency. And Grok couldn't find anything. And it was trying to search all the way back to 2024. So either it was purposely suppressed for information, which could be, I don't know. But it just seems that I see Grok out there doing all kinds of other so called smart stuff, but Grok couldn't answer a question of something simple from something that just happened yesterday. So it was interesting. But anyway, I had better luck with Cipher / Copilot. And so we're going to try it out. We'll see how it works. I'm just going to kind of do my news. I'm going to do like some top 3 stuff, which is interesting because I don't really know that, or maybe there's something, I don't know, underneath the headline that we have to read into a little bit more. But I was thinking, wow, these aren't like really like top stuff. And some of it we already heard of. And so we're going to go with it. And I'll do it every day. So that way we can see if there's any updates as we go. And we can kind of keep a record of it. So anyway, so we just called it Morning Coffee with MrE. Morning coffee, big mug. This is number 2, by the way. Ever since the time change, I've been waking up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. I don't know if that's me going into AARP mode or what. I don't know. It's getting up early. Time's going fast. Maybe that's all what it seems like. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to ramble on. So I'll just kind of read off these headlines for you and go through it. Some of it I might have a comment for or something, but then I've got some things that I saved on X in bookmarks that I wanted to talk about. So, Morning Coffee with MrE, Friday, November 7th, 2025. Uh, Sounds like my fiance is trying to send me messages, so disregard that. So, yeah, one moment. Let me just jump over here quick. All right, so I'm back. Sorry about that. She's just giving me an update on some things going on in Ukraine. Not too newsworthy right now, but anyway, so global briefing, 3 top stories outside the United States. So I guess what do we say here? Let's start with what's shaking the world beyond our borders. So number one, Typhoon Kalmagi or Meiji strikes the Philippines. Tragedy unfolds in the Philippines as Typhoon Kalmagi leaves at least 85 people dead. The hardest hit province was already reeling from a recent earthquake. Flooding and infrastructure collapse have triggered a massive humanitarian response. So that is big news. So we'll see what kind of a response we get to that, and I'll follow up on that tomorrow. I'll put that in my list of things for a follow up. So just so we know that there's a typhoon hitting the Philippines right after a big earthquake. Okay, so the second one was Japan deploys troops over bear attacks. In a rare move, Japan has sent military units to rural regions to combat a surge in deadly bear attacks. Multiple fatalities have raised alarm, and the government is treating this as a public safety emergency. So, I've been to Japan. I was stationed in Japan for almost 3.5 years, and from what I understand, the bears that they have there are pretty small. Um, I mean, I had a dog. It was an Akita, and these Akitas were bred specifically for hunting bear because the Akitas, on how they fought, they would get down low and they could wrap their long legs around this bear from underneath and flip it over onto its back, and then these dogs would attack the soft underbelly of the bear. So from what I understand, the bears aren't that big. So I wonder what's going on that all of a sudden we're having all these bear attacks in Japan. That seems interesting and disturbing at the same time. So I think just because of my personal interest on that, I'll probably mark that as for an update as well. If you guys have any comments or want to talk about, just put it in the comments or like in the chat comments, or please just leave comments below the video. Um, I actually like to go in and read the comments when we get them, good, bad, or otherwise. Okay, so top story number three. This is the last one here for outside of our borders. Suspected terror attack in France. It says 10 people were injured on a French island after a driver plowed into pedestrians, reportedly shouting Allahu Akbar. Authorities are investigating the incident as a potential act of terrorism. So I guess that's something else to follow up on. That's interesting. Well, not interesting. It doesn't surprise me. Let's just say that. So we can do some follow ups on those and also getting some other new news. We'll build on it. So now we're gonna come here back home and see what's making waves across the United States. So top one, no, this actually came out, I believe, last week. President Trump signals possible return to nuclear testing. They've actually already fired off at least one missile that we know of testing. So that's that on that. And the other interesting part was that is that Putin, right after Trump talked about that, Putin said that he's going to start testing, and I think they've started. I don't know if they've fired off any missiles yet or not, but so I think uh, what do they call that? Kafabe, kind of like fake stuff. This is to get people riled up. Um, I followed the Q posts and stuff, and this is like kind of like the rumors of war and the disinformation, misinformation stuff. I think that this is just a way to make people be on edge. And what people they're targeting, basically, the normies are the people that really aren't paying attention to what's actually going on. And something like this makes a big headline and kaboom, people start freaking out. Okay, so this is another big thing. So again, a federal judge this time is getting involved. Um, but we've already, I think, with what we're waiting on with the Supreme Court right now, once the Supreme Court um, goes with either which way, if they approve and they say, yeah, they're going to go with Trump, then it doesn't matter if it's a federal judge or not. It pretty much, if Trump is going to do something, he's going to do something. But this federal judge orders SNAP restoration. So this federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to fully restore SNAP benefits by Friday. The ruling follows legal challenges over recent cuts to food assistance programs. Okay, so we already know with the SNAP stuff that we're finding millions of people that are on SNAP that shouldn't be, that are fully able to work. They could go out and get a job, they can work, but they choose not to. And then you got all these idiots, especially on TikTok, that are out that before the SNAP got shut off, they were out there bragging how they get like $3,000 a month in SNAP, and then they bring home their haul from the store, and 98% of what they pull out of the bags is all junk food. There's nothing healthy in here. So they're basically buying $3,000 worth of Twinkies and fat cakes. And then you look at the people that are doing this, and it's like no wonder we got so many people that are out of shape and fat. And I mean, I'm starting to slim down a little bit, but I didn't have like SNAP, and I think if I had SNAP, I would just get healthy foods, good healthy food. I don't think I would buy. Well, I don't drink soda anyway, so I wouldn't. I don't think I'd buy any unhealthy stuff. Maybe ice cream. I get a sweet tooth every once in a while. But either way, I'm not on SNAP. I never got SNAP. I could be on SNAP right now because I'm a disabled vet, and I basically make my 40% per month. That's what I do right now. I'm working on getting that boosted up, and I'm also getting ready to put in for my actual retirement. So I'm just kind of wading my way through and trying to make ends meet. I'm not actually going out there and trying to live off the government. So anyway, SNAP. As far as I'm concerned, they need to do away with the whole SNAP program, and I don't think that the federal government should be involved in that. I think if anything, the federal government would allocate certain amount of money for each state for infrastructure and for other things, for people for benefits, but not give it to the state and let the state dole it out. I don't think the federal government should be involved in having these programs. I think if I remember right, the state it used to be the states that were 100% control of it. I don't. I To be honest, I don't really. I never followed the whole SNAP food stamp thing, so I really don't know how it works. And kind of in a way, I up until recently I didn't really care because I never thought that there was anything nefarious or bad going on with it. But from what I've been looking at lately, there's a lot of fraud going on with Snap. So anyway, moving on. As we all know, yesterday, UPS cargo plane crashed in Kentucky. Um, and basically, with this, we have an update. We thought that there were 3 deaths. This is saying that there were 12 people that were killed, 3 on the plane, and then I guess 9 that were on the ground. Preliminary reports suggest engine failure. Recovery efforts are underway. I did see a short video clip or a series of clips and photos. There, they're saying that it might not have been an actual engine failure, but it might have been FOD, foreign object. I forget the exact what is FOD. Basically, a foreign object that got sucked into the engine because they showed like a white puff, and then there was the flame. So something got sucked into it. Could have been a bird. It could have been who knows. But the plane was full of fuel. It was on takeoff, so um, it pretty much didn't have a chance. It didn't have really any air under the wings yet, and it wasn't high enough off the ground to try to do any kind of safety maneuver, I guess you would call it. Anyway, pray for the families of those that were lost in that crash yesterday. I hope they can figure out what's going on. All right. So this came out either, well, I think it was hinted at Wednesday, but it was confirmed last night. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is stepping away from Congress. Her retirement marks the end of a historic career as the first woman to lead the House. And it's interesting because when they asked President Trump about it yesterday, he called her an evil woman. And her stepping down and getting out of the government was one of the best things that's happened to America. And he said the stench of Nancy Pelosi will be gone. I was like, wow. But yeah, Nancy, if this was the real Nancy, that's good. But I don't think that, I think this was Nancy 2.0. And this is going to allow the 2.0, whoever played Nancy, to go on and have her life. The real Nancy, I think, was taken care of a while ago. Okay, and then the last bit of news I have. This is sad to hear this. NFL's Marshawn Nealon dies at 24. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Nealon has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The tragedy has reignited urgent conversations around mental health and professional sports. Um, yeah, that's a big thing. Okay, so they bring up about professional sports. Okay, because they get knocked around, their head gets hit a lot. They get brain damage. Okay, but my question also is, why is this not being as big of a story with our military? Okay, our military men and women that were out there, especially during Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was mostly the IEDs, okay, or what they call VIEDs, the vehicle ones, and then there were the roadside ones, but also with our special operators that were involved in doing like breaching operations to go into take these people into custody. So they would use these explosives to blow gates and doors, and they would suffer from the concussion of those explosions. That doing though they might not have been huge, okay, but it was the constant over and over and over. So they're constantly having their brains rattled around, okay, and a lot of our military are suffering from that, okay. And the thing is it was, and this is something that I have my own case that I'm actually planning. My next step is to go to Congress with it. It has to do with my VA benefits. So here's the thing, and this is what includes these special operators. Okay, they never had anything entered into their medical records for any of this. I mean, some of the people that were involved in the IEDs, because they were hospitalized, but these guys that go out on missions and then come home, with supposedly no injuries, they are getting brain injuries. Okay, so they're getting hurt, but it was in small amounts, but a lot over time, and they never saw doctors about this. Okay, so nothing ever got And even if they did see a doctor, you know, because they were having headaches or they were having problems sleeping or they were this or that, they would see a doctor, and then they would have two things happen. They would either be, okay, well, you're fine, you probably just need some rest, or they, being that they were special operators, they loved their work and they just liked doing what they were doing. They were proud of what they were doing, and they would be threatened with losing their position if it came to a PTSD thing or anything that would go to that. Okay. So things weren't being put into the medical records, or they were being put in that didn't have anything to do with like a head injury. Okay. Or I'm trying to remember what we called them. It'll come to me as I go. It's like if I don't have it written down, sometimes it'll sit on the shelf and it takes me a minute to pull it off. Um, but basically, they're having these brain injuries that aren't being put into their medical records, and military people, for the most part, are not allowed to see their medical records. There were times when I was in and I would PCS, which would mean I'm going to a new base. I would have to at one point we had to start hand carrying our medical records with us, um, or maybe they started doing that afterwards. But because we had a plane, if I remember right, it was, I want to say it was in the mid '80s. There was a plane that crashed over by Newfoundland, Canada area on its way over to Europe, and it had um, not so many military people on the plane, but it had a lot of mail and military records that were being transferred for these guys that were going to the new base, and all those medical records were lost. So they started doing it differently. Where I think either they were hand carrying them. I remember hand carrying my medical records, and they were in a sealed envelope, and you could get an Article 15 if you went to check into your next duty station and your medical records were opened or tampered with. Okay, so we were never allowed to see our medical records. And I will talk about an incident that happened to me when I was in Japan. I was not in a combat situation. I was on duty on base. And the worst part about this wasn't like a live actual thing. This was, we called it a 15 and 5. I was a cop in the Air Force. Okay, and a 15 and 5 is you have 15 people that are on certain patrols, be it in a certain location within 5 minutes of this start of this exercise. Okay. Well, this thing started at, well, it was, I want to say it was in May. It was in the spring. I don't remember where. This is back in 1992, so it was just maybe a few months before I separated from the Air Force. But it was early in the morning. It was still dark out, and there was like 3 to 4 feet high of fog across the ground. Okay, and we had to respond to this building. It was a new checkpoint that was being built on like the north west corner of the base on the other side of the runway. Okay, so we had to respond there because supposedly there were um, people that were in there. I think they made the exercise because there were people that were going into these construction areas and they were stealing tools from the construction people. They had a lot of Japanese people that were there. They would leave their tools there. They were the people that were constructing these buildings. So anyway, we are responding. I'm the patrol leader. The guy that was with me, as a matter of fact, at our base, this was his first duty station after getting out of security police tech school, the training that we had in Texas after basic training. It was his first duty station. So we're responding, and we knew that they were doing construction, and we knew that they were digging trenches to put like sewage, the big giant concrete sewage pipes in. So they're digging these things down like I want to say that they were like 10 to 12 feet deep. I never measured them, but I know they were pretty far down, and the concrete tubes are like I want to say like 2 to 3 feet, maybe 2 feet in diameter. I don't I think they might have been more like 3 feet. But so we respond out there, and I can see the reflectors. They have this thick metal plate as a bridge that goes across it. You can drive across that trench, and you can see the reflectors sticking up just above the fog. They were just basically fiberglass sticks with reflective tape on them. And I drove in between. Boom, we're out. Plus, we had our overhead reds and blues on, so there's a lot of reflection off the fog. The headlights, but these we were in one of those little Mitsubishi. They're kind of like the same as the little two-wheel drive um, mini pickups, the Dodge Ram pickups, the old two-wheel drive ones with no back seat. It was just a front seat in the bed. Um, so we get there, and then the next part of the exercise was, oh, they're not at that part, they're on the other side of the construction area. So we had to leave the way that we went out, but we had been sitting there for a few minutes already, and then we got the update that we had to go to the other side. So we go out, and I'm looking for the reflective tape. I see reflective tape, and I drive in between it. Next thing I know, the roof of the truck is hitting me on the head as the truck dropped into this trench. I think we dropped like 8 or 9 feet straight down and came to a sudden stop. The truck was perfectly pinched by the bumpers on the wall, and it stopped us, plus the concrete pipe. I didn't know what happened at that point. I couldn't even see lights or anything because the dirt was all around the front of the truck, and we were getting flashed because the overhead lights had bounced off and were laying like on the hood of the truck spinning around. Anyway, to make a long story short, um, we went. My partner got a cut on his forehead, had to have stitches. I didn't have any noticeable injuries, but I know that two things happened. When we fell, the roof of the truck hit me on top of the head, and then we came to the sudden stop, and I got slammed down into the seat. It compressed my back. I felt like an electric shock that spread out around my lower lumbar region and shot into my toes like an electric shock and then numbness. And then I went, because I didn't know we were still off the ground. I opened the door to get out of the truck because I had to make the radio call outside because we were getting feedback from the radio that was in the truck. And I went to step out of the truck, and I dropped, and I landed on the side of one of those concrete tubes, and it hyperextended my knee. And then I went down, I hit the ground, and the only thing in my head at the time was calling about the accident, because what's embedded in my brain is that my passenger had blood all down his face because his head got cut open on one of the radio boxes on the dash. So he got stitches. I was told, oh, you might have a concussion or maybe slight whiplash. Just have your boss can give you a couple days off. Well, at that time, I didn't know that nothing was even entered into my medical records. So here I'm having the same issue that a lot of these special operators who were out blowing doors as part of their normal routine. None of those times were ever entered into their medical records. So here they were getting this damage, and I ended up getting my head knocked by the roof, which I don't think that affected me. But what affected me is with my lower back. I currently live with three bulging discs that will never heal. But the military says that being that it was never entered into my medical records, I can't get disability for it. So, and there's another thing that I mean they gave me they gave me 40% on the other stuff, but just because that was very prominently noted in my medical records, but because this I think what it was is they knew I was PCSing soon, and maybe maybe our squadron wanted to keep it quiet. I don't know, but I know that this was all in the security police blotters. We always, I was a central security control guy myself. I was one of the lead guys and just happened to be on patrol that night. But nothing ever got put into my medical records. So anyway, enough on that. So just awareness on all things mental health. And me, I pretty much concentrate on the veteran stuff. Our guys went through a lot of stuff, and to this day they have to go to outside resources for support because in my opinion, to this day, the VA, the DFAS, mill pay people, I think they've still got DEI in there. They don't, and I'm gonna say it. They don't give a shit about the veterans. They only care about their job, and maybe they have a quota. My very good friend has had 9 mini strokes, so he has memory issues and stuff, and I help him out as much as I can. But he's trying to get his mill pay, his main check switched over to his new bank because his old bank is in the state we used to live in, and he wants to get it to the bank where we live now. But every time he calls them on the phone, they start asking him for all these questions and doing all this, and then they get disconnected. And I tried to help him out, and the lady cussed me out and told me I that he needs to take his phone off a speaker, even though I told her that I'm his medical power of attorney, and I'm trying to help him out so he can get this done, and they keep fighting him. So, um, listen, whoever's in charge of DFAS mill pay, get your shit together because we're going to start a lawsuit against you too. Okay. Um, my next step with the VA is going congressional, but I am going to reach out to the VA secretary, explain to him my situation and my story. I don't know if he'll see it or not. I'm going to find a way to make sure that he gets it, but that's what we're going through right now. I I think you're going to find very few either retired or disabled veterans that are getting the care and the support that they should be getting. Okay, so now I'm going to jump over to, let's see here. I gotta dun, dun, dun. There we go. Okay, so let me just switch over to this screen. I'm gonna just get to my bookmarks here. I think I was already in it. All right. Okay, so this here is a guy by the name of Gerald. He said he believes President Trump is correct. It's time to put this government shutdown to bed by terminating the filibuster rule. There are too many people all over the country that are affected by this shutdown. Do you stand with President Trump? And this was posted November 5th by Clandestine. Um, and one of the first things, and he just said it recently too, the voter ID and no mail-in ballots. Okay, but and if we can do this, we already know that the Republicans definitely want to pass a clean a clean CR. Okay, so and we get rid of all the junk that's that they're trying to put through. Okay, so now, why am I not? It's like keeping me in the same one. And yeah, okay, so this isn't one that I put in, but yeah, John Brennan treason. We're gonna find there could be a lot of people, but I need to get back to my bookmarks that I saved. Okay, so again, I think we talked the other day. Um, this here had to do with the J6 pipe bomb thing. Okay, and I think I have the bigger part of that was down below. Yeah, here. So this came out from Steve Baker. I'm just going to read this whole thing. He said, after an abundance of counsel from trusted parties within and outside the government, pay particular attention to that, within and outside the government, we've hit the pause button so those interested parties can have some more time to look at the J6 bomber evidence. There are things they need to do internally. No, 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 no. That's to me that's a big red flag. Okay? Hold on, I need a drink. So he goes on to say this is a real story. When it breaks, it's going to be a huge story. There are lots of moving parts, but we need to give them time to do what they need to do. And I know everyone is waiting. Believe me, tensions are running high. There have been a lot of sleepless nights the last 2 weeks, but this is a game changer, and we don't want anything to jeopardize that right now. I was up at 3:30 a.m. preparing the video clips for the release on this morning's Glenn Beck program. Contrary to what so many ex-complainers will say, this wasn't a hype stunt for views and clicks. And no, the government didn't silence us. Glenn and I were both pretty amped up to put it all out this morning, and we were both very disappointed when the decision to postpone was made. The government's investigation into the J6 pipe bombs was going nowhere just 2 weeks ago. Today, I can tell you that has all changed. A bunch of people got pretty spun up yesterday. All right. So there were a lot of responses to this. Okay. I'm going to bring up the Grok one too because I have it bookmarked. So we that's why I wanted to read that out with you all together. If he says that it's not the government that's keeping them from doing this, well, I guarantee you it's not Glenn Beck and it's not the Blaze that's holding it up. So he did go here. We're going to go into this. Okay, it says at Grok when Steve Baker was on the Glenn on with Glenn Beck, didn't he say that the J6 pipe bomber was a well-known woman at the top of the Democrat Party? Okay, so we're going to go in here. Grok even said yes. On Glenn Beck's program, Steve Baker revealed forensic evidence linking the J6 pipe bomber, a hooded figure in surveillance footage, to a woman in high level government position. And these describing her as one of us actually came from the people that Steve took this to. They were like, holy crap. They didn't say crap, they used the F word. And they said, she's one of us. Okay. So the initial analysis showed a 94% match via gait and body metrics, pointing to someone prominent in Democratic circles. No, this changed. Okay, well, this is what Grok is saying. Though the full identity awaits official release, this aligns with Baker's updates on, and yeah, it aligns, but it wasn't prominent Democrat circles. The people that Steve brought this to in the first place, these were probably like mid-level FBI agents. Okay, and if they weren't FBI, then they were Capitol Police. I doubt it was Capitol Police. but these people were all bringing this up about who it was. Okay, there was even people out there saying that it was Kamala Harris's daughter Emma, her stepdaughter Emma. It does. She kind of walks like her, but the reason that I don't think it was Emma is because early on when this was first being talked about, um, this woman is an FBI agent, is what I got from it. Either FBI agent or it, I didn't take it as being in the Democrat Party. Okay. So, but the whole point of me bringing this up is that they're saying that we have to hold it up for now, but who's actually making them hold it up? They said, well, it's not the government. Well, no, it's probably not the government, but it's probably somebody within the FBI. And when you start this just brings back bad memories for me because of Jenny, who was she was on Vote and she was trying to get information out and she trusted the FBI and gave the FBI her information on the Pizzagate and the pedophile rings that were going on, during during Obama's reign, and even stuff even outside of that, but it was all related. And then she ends up dead because she trusted the wrong people. So this smells, it stinks of that. I'm sorry, but that's what's going on. All right, so let me get back to my bookmarks again. I had a couple of other things in here because I was starting at the bottom. All right, so Mamdani, he gets elected mayor. I don't know how many of you were watching any of the stuff that he's been putting out, but this here, the video doesn't match up completely with what is mentioned here by Jack, but Mamdani just did he abandoned all of his supporters and the entire platform that he ran on. He says, "Yeah, we're gonna get y'all free stuff, but I need you to send me money to do that." So he wants his pockets lined. Okay, so but he's abandoning all of that, and it's like he how often and how blatant is it that you get lied to just so somebody can get in office? Now some other things. Now they're calling Mamdani a communist Muslim. I've seen so many pictures of this guy wearing the little Israeli cap like they do when they go to the Wailing Wall. So is this guy Muslim or is he a Jew? What is he? Is he an actor? Is he part of central casting? Hmm. So things aren't adding up with this guy, and things were just too easy. It just was like it was like a freight train that lost its brakes, and from beginning to end, boom, right through. We need to keep an eye on this guy because I don't think he is who he's being portrayed. We might. They're even saying that his paperwork for his citizenship, he lied. Kind of putting some stuff out there for future. Okay, like don't worry, this guy's not going to be around very long. This is all part of the psyop that I've been talking about. Okay, we don't need any sound for this one, but this here happened November 2nd, right here in Texas. This idiot truck driver parks his truck across the railroad tracks and he's on the phone. Why did he leave his truck on the tracks? What the hell? Okay. I don't even know if I can get in closer to this guy or not. I don't want to like racial profile anybody, but we've been talking about these H-1B visas and who all these truck drivers are that are coming over supposedly from India. We can't get close enough to this guy to see who he is, but who in their right mind, I don't care who you are, would have left your semi truck parked across railroad tracks. And then he's standing there, he's on the phone. Is there more to this? He's on a hill. It's not the weight of the truck could have pulled him down off the tracks, and he might have been into the main part of the street. He could have put his emergency flashers on and flares. It's easier for a car to stop than it is for a locomotive, people. H-1B visas need to be ended. Ended. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but whew, I'm on a good mood and I get worked up because I see people doing stupid shit like that with semi trucks. Crazy. So I think my fiance and her mom were both going to come over here and try to come on an H-1B visa because they both wanted to work. My fiance's mom has a cosmetics company, but she doesn't make that much money where she can afford $100,000 to get an H-1B visa. So we're going to be trying to do something a little bit different. Anyway, I think it's going to be more on the asylum side of things. But we'll see what happens. Just pray, please pray for them. They're my family. They're very good people. They're Orthodox Christian. Basically, they're like the same Christian that I am, born again. I'm not perfect. Okay, I'm not a perfect Christian. I never said that I was. I'm just trying to get better. But pray for me, pray for them. I pray for all of you every day. And speaking of which, I just want to say, God bless all of you out there on the other side of the screen. If it wasn't for you guys coming and hanging out with me, and maybe if you're not here hanging with me while I'm live, a lot of you are coming and watching after. A couple things though, please leave comments. I like reading comments, whether they're good or bad. Um, I'm always trying to do things better. I do this on my own now, so I don't have a bunch of people helping me out put things together. But I appreciate any comments, good or bad. Just don't be hateful, please. Um, Also, on my screen, you see my PayPal link. That's what I'm hoping for can help supplement my very small disability money that I get. And I'm trying to build my YouTube and my podcasting, I will call it. I want to do that. I'm going to do a lot more things. There's a lot of cool stuff coming, but this is what I want to do. I enjoy it, and I enjoy um, you know conversing with people, giving people news, and then when I can, giving things that help uplift you. Okay. So anyway, with everything that's going on out there, everybody, please, as I always say, be aware of your surroundings. We call that situational awareness. Always keep your head on a swivel. Um, if you can have protection, have it, and don't let all the negative influence stuff that's going on out there alter the way that you enjoy life. Okay, get out there, enjoy life, but just be extra aware. Okay, so I love all you guys out there. God bless. Be safe, and I'll see you Monday morning, or if I go live over the weekend for something. Take care. God bless.